reason why I became a barber, my younger years when I was probably maybe 5, 6, my dad, my brothers, they was giving me messed up haircuts. It was by the time I became 8th grade, 9th grade maybe, I started to have to change my look. And I was so grateful when one of my childhood friends, his father, he actually became a barber and he started cutting my hair at his house on his back porch before he opened his own shop. And then when he opened his own shop, it actually took and inspired me to go to barber school because I wanted to do exactly what he was doing. That was making people look great, feel great, as well as inspiring them all at the same time while they was in the chair. So that's the reason why. What inspired me to become a barber is my father and my brother, they was cutting my hair, messing my haircuts up. And when I was actually going to school, looking in the mirror, like, dag, like, this haircut isn't right. Looking at some of my friends who had straight hairlines and mine was crooked and all of this good type of stuff. Then one of my friend's fathers, he actually went to barber school and he started cutting hair and was cutting my hair on the back porch of his house. And I'm looking at like, wow, like this is what a haircut really looks like. Now I'm starting to see what the haircuts look like. I'm starting to get the conversations that you would normally get in the barbershop to be inspired. And it just feels good, actually looking good. What drove me to become a barber was just the way a haircut make you feel. The way a haircut makes you look. It could be the worst day of your life and you get a fresh haircut, or you have a bad day in school and you get a fresh haircut and it feels like you're on top of the world. Just that right there to how it personally made me feel so that I can turn around and give somebody the same exact joy that I experienced from getting a haircut and the conversations that actually come behind getting a haircut. The steps to barber school, it was actually a journey. Barber school, to get there, my father, he played a real big part in me going to barber school. He said, hey son, is this what you sure what you want to do with your life? And I told my dad, I was sure only because of the experiences I had. When my dad took and asked me if I was sure, I was like, Dad, I said, I'm sure. Like, I knew it was nothing else that I would rather do that would make me happy at the same time where it could actually fulfill my life and take care of my life financially all at the same time. So after my dad helped me with getting into barber school and getting in barber school, but one of the biggest challenges along the way in barber school is being surrounded by so many people with so many different walks of life. You have so many distractions around you. You have the guys that literally just came home from prison. You have the guys that, like me, who grew up not knowing exactly what you wanted to do, but was just trying to find your way. But the one thing I will say out of barber school, the one thing that actually took and stuck with me the most is my barber instructor, Mr. Matt. Even at times where I didn't believe that I belonged, or times where I was getting tired, because barber school is not that long, but it's a tedious thing when you're dealing with, like I said, so many different people from so many different backgrounds. But Mr. Mack, he always pushed me along the way. He was a father to me in barber school that always kept pushing and kept pushing, really. So anytime that I felt discouraged or I didn't feel like I belonged, he just continued to mold me and push me along the way. he never just allowed me to give up. Graduating barber school was one of the best times, nervous times, all bundled into one. Graduation was just like that one thing that was pushing me out of the door now into the real world. I already had a job lined up when I graduated barber school. So once I graduated barber school, it was just like now transitioning to the real world, into the barbershop I go. I took in my mother. She's maybe 2 hours away from Raleigh. So I wanted to be a little closer to home. So I actually took and found me a job in Greenville. I came here, started working here in Greenville at a local barbershop. And it was a pretty not easy transition, being here in the real world. Because at this point now you're starting off barbering. So it's like you have to take in, build your clientele. And I was the new guy in a whole town where I knew no one. So that was just one of them things where you have to put in your hard work, your dedication to show that you belong in this town. Like there's a lot of competition here. So that's just one of them things where you had to get out, get your face known, hand out your business cards. And of course you got to put out some of the best work, that you can do, only because you are a barber in a town full of barbers that really barber, like for real. I knew it was time for me to open my shop when I started to mature and I started to change. That was around the time of my life where I had actually found Christ. And in those moments, the environment that I was in and I was a part of, it wasn't necessarily so conducive for my spiritual well-being to where I was going. Not saying that it was so bad, but just to where I was going. So that's when I knew it was actually time for me to branch out and open my own, so I could create the environment that would have been conducive for me. I met a guy because I was telling my customers, hey man, I'm going to open a barbershop. And one day, one of my customers asked me, he was like, Eric, I thought you were going to open your barbershop. I said, I am going to open my barbershop. And he said, well, how long before you do it? I said, well, man, just like anything, Well, he said, what's holding you up from doing it? I said, just like anything. I said, money. At this time, I had already picked up a little second job trying to create more money on top of barbering, but that wasn't working because the amount of hours I was missing from barbering to work this second job, they was basically just paying me my paycheck in a paycheck to the money I was missing. So that was robbing Peter to pay Paul, but I just didn't have my shop. So the guy that God put in my life, he actually helped and give me the stepping stone I needed to actually opening the shop. And Young Vision was actually birthed from God putting somebody directly in my life to get me to this next step. One of the greatest joys of barbering is the joy of me being around, inspiring, talking to, and dealing with people. Because I run across people that was literally just like me. People who had direction, good people, but not necessarily knowing the exact direction that they wanted to go. So that's where I feel that I can play a part of my biggest part into what I do and into my community. I take in people come in and they can be in college, enjoying themselves too much, or they can be in high school, not necessarily being on tags to where they should be. They can be the lawyer, the police officer. Some of the greatest joys that you can give somebody is when you sitting back and they come in feeling one way, but not only when they get the haircut do they look good, but they get out your chair feeling inspired about a conversation that you had. The barbershop and the barber, we're not only your barber, your therapist, uh, in some cases, your makeup artist for the guy. Anyway, I'm not getting into all of that. Um, yeah, like we're just a little bit of everything to everybody. That is, I will say, the greatest joy I get out of barbering. It's just inspiring the individual to who comes in my chair and in my presence, but not only getting me, um, but also getting a taste of what God can do for you, to show you that God is faithful, that God promises are real and true. Young Vision Barbershop is not just the place you come in to get your hair cut. It's the place that when you walk in, you feel welcome. You feel the presence of God from the time you step in, and not just saying it because it's my shop. I mean, that's just what it is. You get gospel music from the time you walk in until the time you leave. One of my barbers and some of my customers, they ask me sometimes, they say, is gospel music all that you listen to? And I say, in my barbershop, yes. I said outside, I might listen to some R&B, but in my barbershop, yes. And they say, well, why? If your father gave you a house and your father tell you to, all right, I'm gonna give you a $300,000 house. Give it to you free of charge, not charging you nothing. The only thing I need you to do is make sure your lawn is maintained every week. Make sure your shrubs are trimmed. Make sure your house stays pressure washed once a quarter, because he don't want no algae growing in his house. And your father gave it to you, and those are the only instructions he gave you into keeping your house. I said, would you do it? And the response that everybody gives me is, yes, of course I'll do it. I said, now let me bring my gospel music and making sure I keep the presence of God here. God gave me my business. He gave me my shop. And the only one thing he asked me to do is to keep his presence in it at all times. So, by that being said, that's my small part that I play back to God for what he's done for me and what he's given me. He gave me something to provide for my life, my family, other people. So, by that being said, gospel music is all that you're gonna get coming here. Only because, like the example I just gave you, my father gave me this.